Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home. We're so happy to have you here listening in on our conversation. This channel is a channel created by women, empowering women to take intentional action to create the life they want. With your hosts, Shanda Ceretti, Transformational Coach, and Carla Center, Relationship Coach. So today, we're going to talk about how your qualities carry you. And what I mean about that is we have these qualities in our lives, and sometimes they lead us places we don't want to go. But if we really acknowledge that we have these qualities, they can lead us to where we want to, where we are inspired to be in our lives. And one of those is like determination.
Mm.
And sometimes we're like, oh, I don't have a really great willpower. I can't do this. And we've convinced ourselves that we can't take ourselves where we want to go. However, we have been so determined in, say, in relationships, and we've stayed in this toxic relationship for a long time. And we can use that same energy to create the things we want, to go for our goals. And
Mm.
it's just about really looking inward and seeing these qualities that are in us. And then how am I using these qualities to move down the path towards what I want? And how am I using them to hold me in a space that just isn't right for me? And at some point, using it the way you are, even if it might feel wrong now, it saved you. It got you to where you are. And we talk about that all the time. Like there's a reason why you're in the space you're in. And you get to say, thank you, have gratitude
Mm.
for getting to where you are and
Mm.
be like, okay, but now I'm ready to move forward.
Mm.
This is not where I want to be anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah, I love it so much. And I mean, I love what you're talking about when you're like, it's kind of like a signpost, right? So we all have positive qualities and some that we could portray as being negative qualities, meaning we wish we didn't have them. But what's important to realize here, like what you were kind of touching on, is that all of our qualities, when they are surfacing and when they're showing up, they're signposts, whether or not we're on or off track, right? Whether we're on or off our path to our highest self, right? So it's like a little inventory check. Are we in alignment with our highest self, moving towards what we want, like Carla was saying, right? And so one of my favorite things that I do with clients personally is an NLP tool called Parts Work. And I love this so deeply. There's lots of different ways you can use it too. It's quite versatile. But the underlying idea is accepting all of the pieces or qualities or parts that make up who you are, right? All the negative ones, all the positive ones, everything in between, because they all had at some point a purpose, right? So they've all been working for you. And sometimes, like we've talked about many times in the past on this channel, is that sometimes they just become outdated. So it's not that they're not trying to work for you, right? Like our minds, our bodies, like we are amazing beings and everything wants to work for us. Our body wants to be in its optimal health. Are we in alignment with helping it create that, right? Are we creating an environment to create that? That's conducive to that optimal health? Or are we maybe eating things that are toxic? Or maybe we're over drinking. I was there. Maybe we're smoking. Maybe we're doing things that aren't healthy. Maybe we live a very sedentary lifestyle, right? So using your qualities as signposts and markers on where do I feel out of alignment with what the life that I want to be living. And how do I know this? Well, the simple answer to that is when there are undesirable qualities that are showing up. Like maybe you're in a season of feeling super frustrated. And so I'm not saying ignore it and try and change it, but what I am saying is pay attention to it, lean into it, give it the space that it needs so that it can teach you what you need in order to move on from that, to heal it and to create the like integrity and to come back into alignment. That's what it wants. If you give it the airtime, you'll hopefully learn what it wants you to know to kind of like come back on course. Does that make sense?
Right, right. And these qualities, as we're judging them good and bad, they're just a beautiful thing that has gotten us to where we are in our journey. That signpost that Shanda was talking about, that's going, okay, this is where we're at. I'm not really aligned. So when you look at them, I encourage you to sit down and write down your stuff. Like,
Mm.
um, what are the things that I believe I have as qualities? And just really like journal and make a list on that. And the reason I say that is you'll find some of them like one of mine can be not I won't call it determination because I never called it that. I called it stubborn, right? And so very similar things, right? Like stuck there, like I'm not budging. I'm going to make this happen because I was the girl. If you told me I couldn't do it, I would make sure it happened, right? Why? Because I was so stubborn about being told what to do. There was no way you were telling me what to do, but it did some great things for me, right? And if I'm
Mhm.
aware of that and I didn't understand it before, I just like, this is just who I am. And like, sometimes it turns out good, sometimes it doesn't. But when I realized, like, I have that, and I have, if I'm conscious of how I use this quality in my life, I can create magic with it. Whereas when I'm just like unconsciously doing anything, like it can be all kinds of messy and all kinds of all over the place because I'm not making it about creating what I want in my life. I'm making it about how can I protect myself from somebody having control over me.
Hmm.
Right? That was really the truth about it for me, and I see this in clients all the time, like, they're like, "Just don't tell me what to do,"
Yeah.
is in my relationship, and so those qualities can be used in a very positive manner when we become aware of what our qualities are, right? Like, we have these qualities, and we can judge them bad, we can judge them good, or we can just be like, okay, this is one of my qualities. And how can I use this to support myself by being aware I have this quality and it can be used to create something magical?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just this messy. And I just say, well, it's just who I am.
Right. Yeah.
And
And to that point, you know what? It's okay to even just be messy sometimes, right? Like we're very complex beings and
we are.
sometimes we need to be in that mess to find out. It's like I'm picturing like a ball pit right now with like keys, like these keys to these doors that unlock like information or whatever for us to be able to move on to get out of the ball pit. But the keys are in the ball pit and we need to be in there messing around to find it. And it's not always fun. It's not always desirable. Sometimes we wish we were out of it way sooner than what we get out of it. Do you know what I mean? What we always get out of it, right?
Right.
And um, so I love what you were saying about like take the time and create the space to listen, right? From a place, always from a place of non-judgment and a place of curiosity without trying to make it wrong. First of all, whatever quality is that's showing up, and without trying to change it, because when we immediately try to change something without understanding it first, we miss the lesson and we're just
Right.
avoiding. We're just repeating the pattern of avoidance. So we don't want to do that anymore. We need to take the time to get in the ball pit, right? Pull your sleeves up, pull your pants up, and get in the ball pit and do the work that's asking to be done. I always frame it that way. Whereas when things surface, it's because it's the time, like they're ready, and you might not take action on it this time, but it will surface again, right? But do
Yep.
the work that's asking to be done. And you can ask yourself a few questions like, what's standing out right now and why? Right? Like what is standing out? What's the energy? What's the feeling? What's the emotion? Is it desirable? And you can do this when things are going really well too, right? To see those patterns as
Yes.
well. But is it a desirable experience or not? Right? And what might this quality want me to know about myself? So we're always, when we're doing that introspection, it's always about us. It's not about others, right? We're
Yep.
never othering. We're always learning about us. So what might it want you to know about you? How can you learn about yourself on a deeper level? right? And doing this type of exploration and introspection is really the truest form, the most purest form, I think, of self-love, listening to yourself, caring enough to want to understand your needs. Because I think what we forget sometimes is that we have two brains, right? We have like the head brain, but we have the body brain or the heart brain, two different places. But our body doesn't communicate in words necessarily, right? It has a different form of communication. Your body communicates in emotions, in
Right.
sensations, right? In feelings. And so it's trying to speak to us as best as it can. And we don't always hear those cues. Sometimes they're very subtle. And thankfully that's the case, right? It always starts subtly. But then sometimes that's when we push things off. Like, oh, let's just say I have like a sore wrist. Okay, I'm just going to ignore it, but it keeps progressing. It's getting worse and worse over time. I'm talking months, years go by, 10, 20 years go by. This wrist is to a point where you can't use it. It's an embrace. More time goes by. Oh, then you find out you need to get some sort of surgery, right? And it's just because we weren't willing to stop for a second, listen to what our body wants us to know. And it could be simple things, guys, like nutrition. Again, going back to like, how are you nourishing? How are you fueling your body, right? So, Carla said this, and I'm going to say it again. Use what we're sharing with you, use your qualities for yourself, not against yourself. We never want to use anything that we learn, anything that comes up for us. We never want to use that as ammo against ourselves. Use it as like fuel to keep chugging along, right? And going deeper in your journey.
Right. And know that we've created connections to keep ourselves safe. And that's why the qualities that we have sometimes are used in a way that later on it's not conducive to where we want to go, right? And that's why we always say, be grateful to yourself. Why? So that I don't judge myself, and I'm not like, self-love has been taught as selfish, and Shanda and I have talked about this often. And so when you're like, okay, this got me here. There was nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to be neutral about it. And where is it that this quality could lead me that I have been talking about that I want to go? I'm not going to judge whatever happened. I'm going to be aware, because I haven't made there are neural pathways. It takes practice to create them. And I talk about this all the time because what I do. So it took a while to create the pathways you went with your qualities. Be aware of that. That's why we teach awareness, awareness, awareness. Why? Because we have the unconscious mind has all these pathways already done. You're on autopilot with it. Your body just follows what the autopilot is, because that's where we're at, right? But if we continue to go, okay, these are the things I want to do with my qualities. I'm going to keep trying it. And the messiness that Shanda's talking about is, not only are we figuring them out, but we're also going to stumble as we're trying to create this new momentum forward with our qualities, right?
Hmm.
It's easy. And so if you're just like, okay, I'm open to what and to be aware of what I have,
Hmm.
and then where do I want them to go? And then whatever messiness comes up with that, that's okay, because I'm creating whole new neural pathways in my brain,
Yeah.
and it took me repetition to create the old ones. So it's going to take me repetition to create the new ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And we find so much frustration in that. Talk about frustration being one of the qualities that come up sometimes, which has a place, right? It's kind of like it can be motivating, can also be crippling. But, I do find too that sometimes my clients will get stuck in a swirl of frustration because they just want to be there already. And I'm like, I get it. Like I'm right there with you. I want to be there too. Like let's go. But we need to have that patience. We need to understand that these things do take time, like Carla was saying, right? So I think it's like learning to love your life. Okay. And if that's a stretch, that's totally fine. Learn to appreciate your life. Learn to
Mhm.
be grateful for your life as it is right here and right now. Not how you want it to be, not how you wish it were, or not how or not, sorry, not waiting until you're there and then having the gratitude and the appreciation and the love for your life. Like, have it now. You get to tap into that now. It's available to you right now. So don't deny yourself of that, right? Think about it. Every day that goes by that you don't have that love, appreciation, or gratitude for your life as it is, you're missing that. You're denying yourself of that experience. So let's be aware of that and change that, like, now, right? And it could take simple gratitude journaling, right? It could take meditation. It could take just being present and looking around maybe your home or where you live and just naming a few things that bring you joy, right? Like, it doesn't have to be complicated, but just taking a moment every day to have that appreciation and gratitude for life as it is right now without needing anything to change, right? And the other thing too, going back to like the neuroplasticity, right? It's a game of like time in a sense, right? There are hacks, there are lots of hacks, but it's a game of time because it's a game of undoing and redoing, right?
Right.
Unlearning and relearning. And so our only, my belief, my understanding in my um research and studying is that love is our only innate quality.
Right.
Love is our way of being. Everything else is learned. And the
Right.
best part about that, anything that we learn, we can unlearn. We can redo, we can retrain, we can go back and learn something new. Like, I'll use the example of like eating seems to be on my mind today. Because I'm doing some of my own work. But anyways, eating. Like, I remember when I was growing up, there was no thought about it really at all. I just ate as a teenager. Like, I actually just ate sugar mostly, to be honest, and carbs. And then growing up in like my early 20s, mid 20s, I was like, oh wait, hang on, I got very unhealthy. And I was like, I need to turn this ship around, right? So I started getting more into healthy eating and I tried a whole bunch of different things. Right. So I got to learn something different than I had previously learned through just growing up, like with my family system. And then what I had learned in my mid 20s, I learned in my late 20s that that was not right either. That was backwards. It didn't work for me. So I learned something else. And now currently I'm again learning something else. 2 years ago, I learned something else. So it's okay to keep learning. It's encouraged to keep learning. And I don't make myself wrong for not having the answers or not knowing this back then. Yeah, that would have been great, but that wasn't the path for me. There was a reason why these things happened and it was a process, right? And all the things that I got to learn along that. So, don't beat yourself up about, oh, I didn't pick the right thing or I didn't study the right thing or learn the right thing, right? Like, no, everything is going exactly how it's supposed to be going for your life. Promise.
Right. Right. And it's just, I mean, if you enjoy the journey, you can actually find more lessons as you if you enjoy the journey instead of being so rigid about being perfect, because then you're just expelling all this energy to just be so focused on the goal, and you miss out on, like me saying, journal your qualities. How many times have you really looked at what positive qualities you have? And I hate to say positive, but the ones that you have never acknowledged. You've never acknowledged all these beautiful things. So as Shanda was talking about parts work, even accepting the things we don't like, we don't even sit down and talk about the stuff that we do like to ourselves. We're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is what
Yeah.
got me here, right? And we have all these qualities in us, and that's what makes us uniquely us. The reason why there's not just this book that tells us exactly what we're supposed to do all the time, like this is today you're supposed to do this, do this rigid thing, is because we are all these beautiful, unique individuals creating this life that we're living. And if we're like, okay, let me look at who I am and just appreciate these things about me. Some of them I might not like because of where I'm at in life. And who knows what role they'll play in the future.
Right.
But this is me. This is me, this beautiful, amazing thing that I call me.
Hmm.
And I get to love all the little parts about me, things that I might think are quirky or different or whatever, but that's okay because guess what? That's what makes me me. And that's what makes me different from the people around me. And that doesn't make it wrong, good, bad. We try to tell you be as neutral as possible. Why? Because we're hard on ourselves when we judge.
Hmm.
Um, it's it's just the way we culture has taught us to be like beat yourself up and then you can, get to where you want to be, which that's not how it really works, honestly. It keeps you in your space.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying about like celebrating, right? That's a big thing that I do with my clients, my one-on-one clients, is that we're always celebrating. There was a coach from years ago that I heard, and he would say ABC, like one of his rules was ABC, always be celebrating, right? And I just love it's such a simple like mantra to follow. Celebrate the things, acknowledge yourself for whatever's going well, right? Look for the positives and use those things to fuel you to keep going. Use them to motivate you. Train yourself to look there because we're going to naturally look for the negative, what we need to fix, what's not working. That's just how we're wired. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we can also work on creating something different. We can train ourselves to look for the good, look for the positive. And when you do that, you'll notice that it's actually invigorating and it's energizing and it gives you so much in return when you can start to look for those things in any moment, right? And I think one of the last things that I want to contribute today is I really don't know who said it because I think this message has been said in similar ways along the lines, but just differently. But something along the lines of like the message is in the mess, right? Your message is in your mess, or there's magic in the messy. So don't be afraid to get into that ball pit and do some digging and throw some balls around and find those keys, find those nuggets, find the learnings that are waiting for you to be able to unlock and unfold those beautiful messages so that you can keep journeying down the path of healing and access everything that it is you want. Yeah.
Right. Beautifully said. I love that. And just know that if you're doing this and you are like, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing and what I'm looking at, reach out with questions. Shanda and I are always happy to like share different things that we know that you could look into or just to be supportive while you're looking into your mess as she just put it. It's beautiful. We have created a space where we think it mess is bad, all of that, the judgment, but when you look into it, there are so many beautiful things. So be open and ask questions. We're here to support you. That's why we
Yeah.
create this channel, is to be supportive of you on your journey so that when you're ready to move forward, if we can do anything to be of support, we're happy to do so. So if there's something in one of our older ones, we'll point you to it. What we have tons of knowledge, tons of content, and we're always happy to help you. We're excited that you're here today. Can't wait to see you next week. So just remember to subscribe, share with whoever you think will benefit from this content, and we will see you next week. Bye bye for now.